people are the same. Whether you go to the government, the citizen is the same, because our ultimate objective, I mean, not exactly what I am, which is only for the government employees are same, but it's an Indian. You're talking to an Indian. You have to speak Indian language, and I don't mean Hindi or Bangla or anything, but the thinking, the thought process should be very Indian. The technology is very Indian. So in a sense, the uh, insights that we also operate from, whether it's government or for profit, are very similar. The technology is also very similar. So if you understand how Instagram influencer network works, okay, then it's the same influencer network that you can use for the government. There is not much difference. It is only
Okay.
the messaging that changes a little bit because the product is different. In the government, I might be talking about a scheme, let's say Har Ghar Jal, okay, and in the private sector, I might be talking about, say, a mobile phone, right? So the products are different, but the insights, the language, the entire grammar is very, very similar. So if you are good at private sector marketing, you will be good in government sector marketing also.
Hi, welcome to the Digital Vigyan podcast. Vigyan is a Sanskrit term for science, and that's precisely what this podcast is all about, the science behind digital marketing. I'm your host, Dronacharya Dave, and I'm here to speak with experts from different domains of digital marketing as well as industry segments and learn their opinion on the ever changing landscape of digital marketing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Digital Vigyan podcast. Why am I stressing on special episode is simply because the guest I had on the show this week is a special person in his own rights, Mr. Shubho Sengupta. Shubho comes from the early crop of marketing and branding thought leaders who have seen the space getting evolved from a nascent stage to the big bull it is today. He carries nearly 3 decades of experience in working with ad agencies, individual brands, as well as government entities in the capacity of a digital marketing strategist and consultant. It was an absolutely delightful and interestingly insightful conversation where Shubho opened up about how his personal life experiences have actually played a huge role in his professional endeavors. He explained the need to be in the customer's shoes and his views on current and future landscape. Here's how the conversation unfolded.
Hello, Shubho sir. Welcome to the Digital Vigyan podcast.
Hi, good morning.
Morning, sir. So it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and
Thank you,
I'm
thank you,
really thankful that you agreed to do this.
thank you, thank you.
So, sir, before we delve into the nitty-gritties of the digital marketing world that we're going to get into now in our conversation today, I want to start with for my listeners, basically, if you can just probably give a little bit intro, a brief about about yourself.
Okay, how do I introduce myself? I have different sides, and the side that I'm very happy talking about is cycling. So I'm a cyclist first and foremost, who also
Uh,
happens to be a digital guy. Okay, something like that. So I mean, jokes apart, I think you can describe me as an analog person in a digital world. So I started, my career in the 90s, in the mid 90s, in traditional advertising. And by traditional advertising, I mean, very TV led and print led and radio led and so on. There was no digital in those days, really. Though we had a box which was called a PC, if you remember, a gray box with Windows 95, something like that, right? So from
the
there, I kind
90s kids, they would know. I'm a 90s kid, so I would know.
yeah. From there, I kind of moved to, I mean, I came from Calcutta to Delhi, moved from Calcutta to Delhi in around 97. And I did a, lot of traditional advertising in various agencies. I was lucky to work in the top agencies like Ogilvy, Leo Burnett, GWT, contract advertising. But around 2007, I got very bored with traditional advertising. I wanted to do something new. Or us time pe, there was something called digital, which had just come in. In fact, it come in a couple of years back. But around that time, in the mid, first decade of the century, it was really taking off. So I
Yeah.
decided
In
to,
India, I think it kind of got that boom towards the later part of the first decade.
yes, that's correct. Though Siddharth and other people, Web Chutney, they had started a little earlier. Yeah, but
Yes.
that was just media buying, really. But those Siddharth started the creative thing. Anyway, I joined in 2007 at a digital marketing agency. I joined as the creative head, the national creative director. I was there for a couple of years and had a lot of fun doing new things. This is the pre-social media world, of course. There was a little bit of Orkut, but other things
Yes.
hadn't really come in. Orkut and
Mm.
MySpace. We used to do some organic stuff on Orkut, zyada kuch nahi. But mostly it was mailers, it was media plans, it was LREX and banners on Yahoo and so on.
Social media marketing wasn't really a thing back then, I
No,
guess.
no, no. But I learned a lot. Those were very 2 plus 2 4 days, and it's very important to learn those basics. Nowadays, I see a lot of young people jumping into Instagram reels and so on, which is very good. Okay, that's really
Yeah.
boosted the digital economy. But I think you need to know how, what is the world of clicks and click through rates and, stuff like that. You need to know that very well. All right. So anyway, so I that's what I did for a couple of years, and then I moved to the client side with a cola company for a couple of years, and then I for about 2 3 years, 3 years I think. Okay, and then I became a consultant for a long time. In between, I think 2013 14 to 2018. So those 4 or 5 years, I was a consultant, a marketing consultant for very large brands, very small startups, and so on. I also co-founded 2 startups with my friends at that point. And then, I joined the government of India's, MyGov, MyGov, as the distribution and communication head. I was there for 5 years. I had a great time. MyGov, some of you may know, is a citizen engagement platform, right? It's got a website and it's all over in social media. We have a lot of chatbots and we were involved in the Arogya Setu and Coven, other initiatives. So it was a fantastic experience. Lovely team, huge team, pan national across all states, all languages. But after 5 years of that, I got a little bored, and so currently I'm at something called Karmayogi Bharat. It's the Prime Minister's uh, initiative to upskill all government officers. When I say
Okay.
government officers, it's not just the IAS, because when you say, government officer, you immediately think of the IAS or the top people, but that's only about
Right.
6,000 people. So by government officers, I mean all 35 lakh, central and state government employees, yeah,
Okay.
including, you know, railways and, everyone else. So we do capacity building, you can call it training. The old fashioned way of describing it is online training. But then we are much more than online training. There is an offline component also. So
Okay.
broadly, it's capacity building through digital platforms. So we have something called IGOT, uh,
Okay.
which is acronym for Integrated Government Online Training. Okay, so we have a portal, but it's only for government people. It's not for Janta, right? So
Okay.
we do that, and we've just started a couple of months back, about 8 months, 9 months back, and I head the communications and marketing out there, and I look after the UI UX also. So it's been a couple of months for me. I think from May onwards, so that's about 4 or 5 months. So that's what I'm doing. So that's my work. But as I told you earlier, I'm also into cycling, into various,
We'll be talking about that, sir. I actually, so I saw your LinkedIn profile, and
yes,
like when I was going through it, I saw that uh, it says that like your LinkedIn profile, it says digital marketer government brands, agencies, startup co-founder, columnist. Now, the thing that actually caught my attention was the one that came after all these things. Cycled Manali Leh solo.
Mm.
So,
Right.
the moment I saw that, I was like, no, 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 I have to talk to him about this thing. So, just reeling back a little bit when you were talking about your initial days as when you joined some like when you were into advertising, you mentioned you worked at Ogilvy as well, right? Uh, I understand that you've worked with a person who's considered as the uh, epitome of advertising in India, especially Mr. Piyush Pandey. So, how was that experience?
It was a a life changing experience for sure. And I had worked with other agencies, and I've had very good bosses before I worked with Piyush. I think in 2002 to 2007, about 5 years approximately. So uh, one, there was no mistaking, even before I spoke with him. Of course, the man's reputation preceded him. Everyone knew about the Cadbury's girl and so on,
Yeah,
Fevikwik and so on. Okay. But it is only when you start working with him that you find out certain things. For example, one, he's extremely democratic, right? And creativity is a very democratic process. There is no hierarchy, which I found out while working with Piyush. So Piyush would, the most junior person in the room or the agency is very important for Piyush. What his ideas was, वो कैसे सोच रहा था, उसका राज क्या था. These were very important things for him. It is not just that he only spoke with the senior people. He spoke with everyone. So that's the first thing that I noticed. And it was like, bata kya ho raha, kaise chal raha. That kind of casual kind of thing. So with Piyush
right,
Pandey, for the world, he could be a, chief global officer, etc., etc. But for, the 21-year-old trainee at his agency, it was Piyush. Piyush, ek acha idea hai, suna do. It was like that. And Piyush was always willing to listen. So this is the first thing that you notice about me, a completely hierarchy-less, flat kind of creative system where everyone's idea was important. So that was the first
right,
thing. Second is, he's as good a HR, manager than as a creative manager. Second thing you
true,
noticed was, Piyush really understood human insights, right? He really got into insights, and that came from experiencing life. We were talking about the need to go out of the box and go cycling or whatever, meet different people. So Piyush epitomizes that. He was already in many different careers before he joined advertising at a relatively later age. I think 30, 32, something like that. Okay. And he had met so many people. He understood कि एक गांव का एक बस में कैसे conversation होता है. Okay, he
right,
understands that. Though he came from a relatively privileged kind of background, okay, but he understood, in what we call peri-urban or rural India, what is the grammar, what is the language they speak about, what are the relationships between a you know Angrezi speaking man and a fisherman who speaks only Hindi.
right,
These people dynamics. I don't think there is anyone better than Piyush in this country who understands it. So I mean, all this came into his his work. It was not an interest for him. He put it into his work. He plowed it back into his TV ads or whatever, and we
right,
all understood him. People who worked with him, we understood it very quickly. That there has to be some human insight behind whatever you're creating. TV ad or radio spot or whatever. कुछ तो कीड़ा, some human insight interest must be there that makes people say, oh, I know what you're saying, I've been through it myself, right? So that very quick, that British kind of man talking to the fisherman, we have all been through it. I mean, if you live in a small town, if you're a carpenter, actually the product was for carpenters, okay, उनको
right,
पता है, that person knows what the advertising was talking about. So these are, I mean, there are many other qualities, which I don't think we have the time, but these are the two things that you noticed immediately about him. One is he respects everyone's ideas, no matter how junior or senior you are. And second is, that deep insight of Indians, I would say. So these two things, I think I have learned from him a little bit, maybe 1%.
Great, great. I can, sir, only imagine how it would have been to work with such a wonderful personality. So will it be right to say that this experience sort of integrated this, uh, you know, agenda in your mind that okay, this is what the kind of um marketing or branding uh, path that I'm going to take, which is digital technology that uplifts lives, because that's what it is. It's your LinkedIn profile says personal focus, digital technology that uplifts lives. So
Yeah,
is it right to say that that experience kind of influenced this thought?
yes, yes, absolutely. So Piyush taught me about the ordinary Indian on the street. So who came from a bundle of, different cultures and so on. So, what I mean by that uplifts lives, the last two words is, the context is I have been with the government for the last 5 years or so, even a little earlier, actually. Okay. And it has given me what should I say, the opportunity to see how ordinary people at the remote regions of our country, how they live, how they work, and how they use digital technology, how digital technology can affect their lives, can improve, uplift their lives. I've seen it indirectly, okay, working on many various projects. So that is what I mean when I say digital, technology that uplifts lives. And there are many examples around us. There is UPI, for example, your whatever we all make these mobile phone payments. UPI is a uh,
UPI is.
yeah, it's a big success. Whether it's Paytm, call it Paytm or Razorpay or whatever it is, Google Pay. It's changed so many lives. So many small
It has.
businesses.
Yeah.
There is a woman sitting in a remote village, selling her vegetables through UPI on a mobile phone, right? So all these things are happening, and of course, the COVID, the COVID, the Arogya Setu app. So there are many different, and of course the India Stack, famous India Stack, which uses Aadhaar, the Jandhan Bank, and there are so many successes which.
DigiLocker is also there.
Yeah, DigiLocker is also there. So, all these are life uplifting technologies. That it is not
Absolutely.
just digital technology, it is life uplifting technologies. So that is what I meant. Yeah.
So now I want to start like I want to get into uh, the depths of what you've been doing and integrate like the integration of digital marketing into it. Um, so I understand that you have, and you've also mentioned just a few minutes back also that you have worked for government setups, right? Currently also in the past as well. Then you have worked for individual brands. You have worked in agencies. So what I wanted to understand was how different it is in, let's say, managing a digital marketing campaign for such different entities. Like an individual brand is a different setup altogether, and agency is a different setup altogether, and same goes for the governments. That's a totally different ball game altogether, I suppose. So how different it is, or is it different at all?
Yeah, there are, I mean, various opportunities and challenges in both fields. So it is different in the sense a lot of what we do in the government is not, it's not paid advertising. It's not paid marketing, but it's organic, right? So I don't know if the government, the digital ecosystem is far bigger than Samsung and Coca-Cola and Reliance and whatever you want to put together into 10. We have a huge, huge footprint. If
Right.
you put together everything, WhatsApp, social media, emailers, mobile numbers. If you put together everything, we have a huge organic reach, which we use, I think, fairly well. So that is one. We do not do paid advertising. I mean, there are some rare instances, but generally it's all organic. That is one
I
big
think the
difference.
user generated content, as we talk about in the
Yeah.
digital marketing space, the user generated content is so much at disposal. I believe in the government setup.
Yeah, we that is correct. There is a lot of user generated content. Okay, so that is one. And the second thing is, the what should I say? The the people are the same whether you go to the government. The citizen is the same, because our ultimate objective, I mean, not exactly what I am, which is only for the government employees are same, but it's an Indian. You're talking to an Indian. You have to speak Indian language, and I don't mean Hindi or Bangla or anything, but the thinking, the thought process should be very Indian. The technology is very Indian. So in a sense, the uh, insights that we also operate from, whether it's government or for profit, are very similar. The technology is also very similar. So if you understand how Instagram influencer network works, okay, then it's the same influencer network that you can use for the government. There is not much difference. It is only
Okay,
the messaging that changes a little bit because the product is different. In the government, I might be talking about a scheme, let's say Har Ghar Jal, okay, and in the private sector, I might be talking about, say, a mobile phone, right? So the products are different, but the insights, the language, the entire grammar is very, very similar. So if you are good at private sector marketing, you will be good in government sector marketing also. It is not like, sun and moon, nothing like that. It's very similar.
okay, okay. So not much of a difference as such.
Not much of a difference, but we are organic, as
Is
I
one
said.
more difficult,
Yeah.
or is one more complicated or difficult than the other?
No, I find organic marketing very authentic because only if you are interested in my content will you come to me. Okay,
Absolutely.
versus paid marketing, which is whether you're interested or not, I'm going to blast my message and you're going to see it. But what happens with paid marketing, and I always use this analogy, it's like a Diwali pataka. Right. So you see it definitely, but for one night, one evening only. Next day it's gone because it's very high budget. You spend a lot of money. But with organic marketing, it's like if you're from Delhi, every colony has a bonfire. वो security guard लोग करते हैं ना bonfire gate के सामने. So every colony has a bonfire, right? And it lasts all night, right? And the next night also, and the next night, right through the winter.
Through the
So,
winter.
organic marketing is a little bit like that. It goes on and on and on and on. It doesn't stop and it's free. I
It's
mean,
a
it's not
long
exact.
term. It's a long
uh,
term thing, and
it is a long term. Yes,
yeah,
yes, correct. So that is one big difference.
right, right. So, any particular project as such that you can recall, or you would like to talk about that? Okay, that was one very interesting project that I did across any of these sectors that you have worked on.
See, when it comes to projects, there can be nothing bigger than the government of India's COVID initiative. Okay,
Right.
in every, not just digital, but there is some film that has come out, I believe, about such a COVID medicine or something.
Yes, vaccine wars.
Vaccine was right, right. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Anyway, so we during COVID there were a lot of rumors floating around. Okay, ये खाने से ये हो जाता, etc., etc. So where I was, MyGov, we were the voice of truth for the entire Indian digital population. So anything about COVID, when will this bus route be open? Is this medicine good? What is the age limit for this? So we were like 24/7 pushing out information in the form of videos, in the form of graphics, in the form of WhatsApp, whatever, many other things. So people trusted us. In fact, mainstream media, even the BBC were quoting us. So that was a very important role that I had the honor of being in, along with my colleagues and seniors, right? So that was a very important thing. And then COVID, of course, the vaccination, first round, second round. So I was involved in all of those, in pushing out information and, in the UI, UX, other things. So that was a very important and meaningful, juncture in my career. Yeah.
Right. Right. No, so I can totally understand what it would have been like, working on that particular project. What I want to talk about now is your uh, approach, when it comes to creating a comprehensive digital marketing plan. Right? So I'm this is irrespective of uh, the industry, which you're working for, like irrespective of whether you're working with a government setup or a brand or an agency. Uh, it's irrespective of that. What I wanted to understand was your process of creating a comprehensive digital marketing plan. Like how do you go about doing that? Like, are there particular tools that you, because obviously, as you mentioned today, there are umpteenth number of digital marketing tools at our disposal for each and every activity, whether we talk about content, whether we talk about social media, we talk about email, with automation and everything. So there are so many tools, coming in. So, uh, what's your way of going about creating a comprehensive digital marketing plan, and
Yeah.
the important bits that you really really don't want to miss, no matter what?
Yeah. So, I told you I'm from an analog world. I started in the mid 90s and there was no digital. So, what we started off at that point is understanding the consumer. That was our starting point. It was not even the product. It was not the product or the service. It was the consumer, the buyer. Okay. So, a buyer, you do not call him a digital buyer or a non-digital buyer. He or she is a buyer. A housewife is a housewife. You don't say, oh, digital housewife. You don't say, whatever. Okay. So get into the mind of the consumer, understand the consumer's, mental space, the need gap that your product or service is kind of closing, helping. So that was the starting point. In fact, in those days in the 90s, we were asked to, if it was a petrol pump, we were asked to go and stand in the petrol pump all day and find out how people buy petrol, how people sell petrol. If it was some product, I remember going to factories and spending days in the factories. So first is, you start there. If you have some time, unfortunately, in most cases, you don't have time these days. You do five, six campaigns at the same time. I understand that, but try to get into the consumer's life. That is the starting point. Understand the consumer's buying cycle, media consumption patterns, all these things. And it is, frequently you will not have colleagues who will give you this information. You will not have clients who give you this information. खुद को जाके, internet, whatever it is, googling, you have to find out. So that is the first point. Second is, find out what that person is doing online. What are the conversations? And you mentioned there are various tools. So you can find out what kind of conversation is happening around, the product category or the product, if the product is prominent enough, these things. And then, of course, your learnings, which is, what is the best marketing plan, what is the best platform, what is the best messaging, what is the best conversation. So all these things, technology and your learned thing comes later. But if there is one thing that is important from point A to point B, the entire cycle, it is the consumer. The more you get into the consumer's mind, the better you sell. Very simple.
Absolutely. Absolutely, understanding the pain points of your audience is paramount. Like I think I also believe that that's one of the first things that every brand or any B2B B2C setup should understand.
right,
Otherwise, they might not be heading into the right direction when they
right,
are planning a campaign for their
right,
products
right,
or services.
right, right.
So, because people are, even if they are using digital sources, people are
Huh,
looking for answers or solutions to their problems,
huh,
right? So, yeah, understanding your consumers' main target audience's pain points,
huh.
that is absolutely paramount.
Yeah, yeah. Pain points, pleasure points, the way they live. I one of the reasons I go cycling is to talk to people on the street. I mean, literally on the street, you know. So one group of people I meet very frequently are security guards. If you're from Delhi, you will know what I'm saying. So there are a lot of security guards who work in and around Connaught Place. Okay, CP.
Yeah.
But they live in villages just outside Delhi and they cycle all day, right? I mean, they cycle 20 kilometers to work and then they cycle back 15, 20 kilometers. So I talk to these people while we are both cycling. Okay. And they
Okay.
give me insights about their lives. कैसे घर में जाके खाना पकाने होता, सब्जी खरीदने पड़ता, सब्जी लेके किसी पड़ोसी के पास फ्रिज है, उसके फ्रिज में रख के, all these stories you keep hearing. So someday, if there is ever and of course, I also talk to them about how they consume digital. They're all on WhatsApp, of course. I don't think that will be a big surprise to you. Okay, so and they consume a lot of video. They watch videos, 30-second, 40-second video. So if I'm ever creating a product for security guards, I know more about them than a lot of other people, because I've spent so much time with them in the last couple of months. So it's very
Right.
important to get into the shoes of your consumers.
Absolutely. And I think that also gives us a perspective that what kind of content would work for
Yeah.
what kind of audience. So, like you mentioned, they watch a lot of videos.
Ah.
So maybe a brand whose target audience covers this section
Hmm.
of the population.
Hmm.
So they would rather focus working on video content than maybe a static picture design or maybe a blog or something.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
That kind of content they would definitely work on.
Hmm. Hmm.
So what's your take on, because we are talking about the current landscape of digital marketing and the
Hmm.
automation and everything. I wanted to know, and because you've
Hmm.
mentioned a couple of times that you come from an analog marketing era, so I
Yeah.
wanted to know your take, your opinion on this entire automation trend that is going on, the AI trend that is going on right now. What's your take on that? How do you see it? I mean, do you think it's a boon, it's a bane? How do you see it?
I think it's like cars. Okay, so you can use a car to change your life. Go from point A to point B, right? To a far off place, you can go there regularly if it's your job, or you can take your child to the school if it's a far distance kind of thing. Now you can also use the car to run over people. There's a negative side also, right? So it depends.
Right.
Use it,
If not handled properly, you
yes,
can
yes, yes.
it,
So
it can create accidents also.
absolutely. So there is, there are some very dangerous sides to AI, which include, terrorism, right? So, but there are some very nice sides to AI. AI can help create jobs also, create very, a lot of new markets. So it depends how we use it. So that's at a broad kind of sense. At a daily working sense, AI is extremely beneficial for digital marketers because it gives us insights into people, it gives insights into how to use technology, and most importantly, it gives us insights into how to use the data properly. You know, so previously, if you remember 10, 15, 20 years back, we used to waste so much time going over a, Excel sheet, finding out, ये इतना पैसा यहाँ पे डालो, उतना पैसा यहाँ पे डालो. It was so irritating,
Right.
mind numbing, doing the same thing. Now, AI will help you do it at the touch of a button. So imagine the time that you're saving, right? And time save means, you create more work opportunities. So you may end up making more money. So long term, that's how I see. It's a very
Right.
good thing, right? If used properly, it's a very good thing.
Yeah. And you talked about creating jobs. This is something like I'm sure you've heard of Chat GPT as one of the AI generative AI application that is getting all the popularity these days.
Hmm, hmm,
So the since the time it has come up, there have been talks about that. Okay, this is going to eat up jobs, and it's going to replace people. It's going to it's a threat to people. Uh,
hmm,
but I remember I was doing a podcast with this one very experienced person, Mr. Krishnan Unni. He
hmm,
comes from a content background himself.
hmm.
He's a consultant. So he said that these things are inevitable. That like change in anything is inevitable. During the industrialization times, even that was initially seen as it's a bad thing. It's going to eat up jobs. What will happen to laborers and everything? But it happened for good. It changed things for good. It was a sign of progress, right? It actually gave jobs also to people,
Hmm, hmm.
skilled jobs, and laborers are still there. They have their piece. So I think that same thing is something that you also just mentioned over here, that it is actually going to give a lot of job opportunities also.
Yes, yes, yes. In fact, I would like to mention something called Bhashini. Bhashini is a Indian app made by the government of India. Okay, uh, and it kind of it brings the country together. We speak so many languages. There are so many official, smaller regional languages. So
Yeah.
Bhashini is basically a translation bureau kind of thing. Okay, so suppose you're comfortable in Hindi and you're somewhere in Assam, in a remote district in Assam. So the Bhashini app will do a text to text translation from Hindi to that Assamese and back. It will do a voice to text to voice, many different things in real time. And this is done through AI. It's a
Right.
completely AI based chat app. You can download and use it also. Oh, okay. And
Okay.
so this is a positive use of AI, which will bring the country together, more together.
Right, right, absolutely. And I think there are many more such examples that we can probably keep going on and on. But
Yes.
uh, what I want to go on to now, sir, is so like just a few minutes back when we were talking about the differences between how it's working for a government setup or a for an individual brand or agencies. You talked about uh, the organic versus paid thing, where organic is something that people uh, are actually looking for that thing, and paid is something that has been thrown at you on your face, that okay, even if you don't want to see something like this, but it has been given to you, right? uh, and there is this thing going on a lot, which has been talked about, is uh, about ethical marketing, right? So I wanted to understand from you, what's your point of view on ethical marketing? Does this thing of paid marketing and organic marketing, does that falls under somewhere defining that paid is non-ethical, or it has nothing to do with being ethical or non-ethical? What's your take on ethical marketing, basically? Like we talk about remarketing also. That's again falls under paid marketing, where we are approaching people who might have you know took some action, seen our ads or something, but did not convert it or did not do
Mm,
the desired action. So we
mm,
again, for example, if we are watching if we Google search something, and immediately you will see whatever application you're going on, whether it is YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're going, you're seeing ads related to that search you're doing.
Yeah,
So all these things collectively, your thoughts on ethical marketing.
yeah. I mean, this is a conversation that has been going on for a while, especially in the last 2 3 years because of AI, because of increase in technology. So, you know, it's ethical marketing for ethical brands. That's the basic thing. Ethical marketing is not just a marketing technique, but it's like a philosophy that promotes honesty, fairness, responsibility, right? So especially in this data driven age, there is this huge potential opportunity to misuse data. I mean, it's not just the spam calls that you get, right? There are people
Yeah,
trying to fish and steal your data, and trying to not just steal your money but cause discord, through things that are not unconstitutional, go against our constitution, right? So promoting, so we need to be constantly. In fact, the government has this, this bill, the DPDP bill, the digital bill that is coming out. This will hopefully take care of unethical marketing. Set very clear and visible guardrails in place on surrogate advertising. Exaggeration, unverified claims. Stereotyping people, communities, etc. I see some of that happening. So ethical marketing is when responsible brands, whether big brands or small brands, kind of take the responsibility on themselves to use, you know, data in a proper, ethical, constitutional ways that are not in variance with the laws of our country. And sorry
right,
to say, but there are some platforms, I mean, social media, large platforms, which were pretty unethical. I mean, say 5 6 7 years back, and now abhi sab line pe aa raha धीरे धीरे. So
right.
that is
So
my.
so that wave is changing. That tide is changing a little bit now.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, see, Europe is far, they started this about 20 years back, as you know. Europe is very strong on these things. They pull up big companies, left, right, center. Okay, so, but we don't want to be a policeman, like Europe is a policeman, basically. Okay. Neither do we want to be like Americans who say, Acha, let the customer
Do whatever you want
do
to.
whatever you want. We
Yeah.
want to take the correct balance, which are in, go with the laws of the country, the constitution, right?
Which is, I believe, very critical and very complicated, also given the kind of diversified population India has. Right?
Yes.
I mean, there are people who come from different, uh, thought process, religious background, beliefs, language, ethnicities. So it's actually a really complicated thing
Mm,
to strike that balance, especially with the Indian population.
mm.
Right? So
Yes, definitely.
any particular things that you also keep in mind when you're creating your campaigns, when you're planning your digital marketing strategies? Any particular thing you also keep in mind that okay, that it should be in line with the ethical marketing aspect of it?
Well, in the government, you have to be extra, extra, extra careful, because what you are saying is like the voice of truth. So sometimes we are accused of being a little slow, and I'm fine with that. Okay, but we need to be, everything that we sent out needs to be not just verified once, but double verified. We check from three. We are more rigorous in, fact checking than a lot of journalists, right? With all due respect to them, so we take, sometimes we take days in checking whether this is correct, the data, for example. So whatever numbers, we deal with data, right? All these schemes,
Right.
everything is about data. So we can't get away by saying, 1 crore ke aspas. You have to say exactly what is the figure, and it has to be verified by 3 4 different sources, official sources. Yeah.
Right. Data verification, basically.
Yes, yes, yes. Right, right,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right, right.
Right. So before we wrap up this conversation today, this is something I kind of it has kind of become a template for all my podcasts. Uh, I always like to get the opinion of my speakers, their thoughts on where do they see digital marketing of today heading towards. Like we we've seen how it has transformed over the years, from 90s to early 2000s, and then in the last decade with all the automations and AIs and generative AI, all the emerging technology. Uh, where do you and you come from that crop of digital marketers who have seen this entire evolution through and through, right? So where do you see things going from here in terms of digital marketing?
See, we are when I started off in digital marketing about 15 years back, it was a very top-down, top-heavy, hierarchical kind of thing, and only the big brands, like whatever Microsoft or the banks, of course, the BFSI sector, they did digital marketing, right? Now it has changed completely. Now digital marketing is the go-to for small brands. Even it's so many, uh, not just SMEs, but independent, one person companies have started their marketing journey on various digital platforms. So it has enabled a lot of small businesses, which spend as less as 50 rupees a day, right, in advertising. So it has created a very horizontal, flat kind of marketing structure. It has brought in democracy to advertising. Previously, how many people could advertise on TV or even a small print ad? Look at digital. There are these 15, 16-year-old influencers who are making money from, in YouTube or Instagram or whatever.
YouTube's,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So that's a very good thing. So that is the big thing. However, you know, the way, the direction that I see it going is, it cannot only be in English. It cannot be only in Hindi. India has so many languages, so many cultures. So I see, you know, platforms like Bhashini through AI, bringing India together. I'm talking about India only. Okay, bringing
Yeah, yeah.
India together. So someone in Assam is transacting with someone in Cochin and is transacting someone in Kutch, and these are all, let's say, people who earn less than 10,000 rupees a month, right? How can they trade with each other? I see digital solving this problem, in a year or 2 or 3 years, whatever.
Bringing multilingual concept under one roof.
Yes, yes, correct, correct, correct. So I look forward
Right,
to that.
right. Great, sir. Thanks a lot. It was actually a very insightful and very inspiring and informational conversation we had. I really thank you for being here, and maybe sometime in future, maybe we can also plan, you know, a ride together to the Himalayas on cycle, motorcycle, whatever. I don't mind, but as fellow travelers, we can do that. So I'll look forward to that also. But yeah, thanks a lot, sir. Thank you for being on the show. It
Thank
was an
you.
absolute pleasure, sir.
Thank you. Likewise, as you said, there's an opportunity to learn from everyone. I've also learned from you. Hope to cycle with you, also meet you for a coffee
Sure.
someday. Okay. And
Definitely, sir.
and
Definitely.
can I say one last thing before I sign off?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's something we were discussing a little earlier. It is very important for young people in digital marketing to think and meet people outside the box. Uh, Please go out, meet people on the street. Go for small tours. Be interested in other things. When Steve Jobs went to university, and this is a Purana kahani, you might have heard of it. Some of your listeners may have heard of it. He got very interested in calligraphy. He learned calligraphy, not IT or whatever coding was in those days. He did course after course in calligraphy, and later, after Apple became so successful, He says it's because of that calligraphy courses that he took. He understood fonts, he understood design, and all of that went into the Apple computers, early Apple
Right.
computers. So, always be in learning mode, never stop learning, always be curious, always learn. And utna judge mat karo, ye सीख के क्या होगा? Even
Absolutely.
Steve Jobs सीखा तो अच्छा लगा, सीख लिया, calligraphy. He did not
Absolutely.
think, oh, I'm going to apply it to, laptops or, Apple someday. Whatever you like exploring, if it is honest, if it is, you know, you think the world will become a better place if you learn something, please go ahead and do it. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
So absolutely, I definitely agree, sir. So thanks again, sir. Thank you for being on Digital Vigyan, and it was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you for tuning in. If you like the podcast, please do subscribe to my channel on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.